Emira, we now have two female heads of state in Africa. You have 54 countries which are members of the African Union. If you add Morocco, you have 55. We have 2 out of 55. How does that look?
Well, it is a good start, a good step in the right direction. We have a ways to go, but I think it's important to recognize that we not only have these two democratically elected heads of state, but we also have women that are right up in line as vice presidents, as speakers of the House, but more importantly, you have women that are moving up in Parliament. Let's remember, here in the United States, it's about 17%, the percentage of women in the U.S. Congress. But you have African countries, of course, Rwanda tops the list where it's 55%. You have others that are at least 30%. All of the countries with new constitutions have enshrined affirmative action clauses to expand the space for women's political leadership. So, you know, we have only 2 at the moment, democratically elected women presidents, but I earnestly believe that we have many more that are, you know, sort of that backbench team ready to take over at the right time. You
mentioned Rwanda, which has more than 50% of members of parliament. There are some critics who say, wait a minute, these are basically appointed. They have not really been chosen by people freely.
Well, I think what you have in these new constitutions are opportunities to affirmatively open up the space for women within political parties. Clearly, it will take time, but you are seeing new changes in terms of women's participation at all levels in a number of the countries that have the new constitution. So it's not just Rwanda, but you have to look at Namibia, Tanzania, South Africa. The list is growing of countries where it's a greater day, where you have now women who hold up half the sky and were ignored for far too long, finally in a position to be able to take their rightful place in formal political office. But that didn't just happen. It's an active women's movement that made it possible, that brought about these changes. And that women's movement is still very vibrant and growing as we speak.
Very interesting, Flora. You come from Kenya.
Yes, I do.
What is your reaction to this?
Well, I pretty much will piggyback on what she has said, that women we've come a long way. And, you know, we have 2 presidents already. I'm from Kenya. We have an aspiring candidate, a female candidate, Martha Karua.
You have had Charity Ngilu.
She's very strong. She's very strong-willed. She's ambitious. We have Charity Ngilu as well. And we have a number of women who are in the Kenyan parliament as well. And, you know, it's just really encouraging because over the years, we've been oppressed as women. We've been living in a male chauvinistic kind of world. And it's, especially in Africa, it's really encouraging that women can actually come up to the level of men, you know, and just, you know, just attain that leadership that we've always wanted, you know?
You are a young lady. You've seen a lot in such a very short time. You had a current Kenyan civil rights type of individual in the name of Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai, of course, you know, may she, of course, rest in eternal peace. What extent did people like Wangari Maathai really inspire people like you?
Okay, because she has gone through a lot. She went through a lot. She did not overcome this environment changes overnight. This has been happening. The Green Belt movement that she founded has been there since, I think, the 80s. And nobody really took her seriously, you know. And she was, we used to have, if I may call it, like a kind of, lack of better word, dictatorship kind of leadership with the former government. And whatever she wanted to bring forward, to present forward, was kind of like slashed. Like, you're not allowed to even like oppose what the then government wanted to do. This is in terms of the buildings that would come up in various parts of the country. That means cutting down trees and eventually will affect our environment, you know. But she was pretty strong. She stood her ground, and she got help from the international community. She's been arrested. She's been, you know, she's gone through a rough time, and see where it got her.
I remember
eventually.
when she mobilized a lot of Kenyan women to prevent urban development on Uhuru Park.
That's the key. That's the key. What would I say? That's the main kind of event that happened that brought her to international recognition.
That was like a game changer of sorts.
Yes.
I also remember the president of the day at the time actually saying that she did not really deserve to own an opinion because she was guess what?
A woman.
But men are born by women, by the way, the last time I checked. What happens?
I think, if I may say, he was probably living in the olden times, but times have changed. Times are continuing to change, and we have to recognize the woman is the backbone of pretty much mankind. You know, without women, there'll be no like procreation. There'll be no continuation. You know, and it pretty much shows us that we can multitask. We can be leaders, we can be mothers, we can be wives and career women.
Well, what about you, Barbara, joining us all the way from the Ugandan capital, Kampala? How does it look like from your vantage point in terms of human rights or women's rights for Ugandan women?
It's true that we have made some progress. In Uganda here, we have had a female vice president before. And at the moment, we have a Speaker of Parliament, who is Rebecca Pada, very powerful. I think you're safe as long as you don't try and go for the presidency while Mr. Museveni is still around. Because if you try and do that, then you'll be persecuted or you will have trumped-up charges against you. As far as human rights, really, Uganda is now in a struggle for democracy. Our rights are being violated, and I myself, as a pro-democracy activist, is really being targeted. For instance, today, as I walked our constitutional square, I was arrested, surrounded by 8 police officers for no reason whatsoever. I was minding my own business. Apparently, they had orders from the DPC of our central police station. So I was surrounded. I was marched to the police station. And they claimed that they were working on some intelligence, that I had some plans to occupy our constitutional square, which has, since the last election, been occupied by our police. So really, our human rights are being violated. I was taken in there, arrested and unlawfully, and yeah. So things are not good here.
Barbara, how were they able to identify you? Were you walking alone or were you walking among a lot of other people on Kampala Road?
I have to tell you that there were many other people, but for some reason I was pulled out. I think this is to do with the fact that I protested against the arrest of Ingrid Chirinawe. The brutal arrest, which I hope you have shown to your viewers. Last week, we went to the Central Police Station, me and a group of to protest this brutal arrest. So I believe that I'm being targeted and singled out for that protest.